arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. At least passed my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers.
Believe this? As the legal immigration hits a record high, President Biden making his message clear, calling for amnesty in the State of the Union address without even tying cartels and border and fentanyl crisis and even to China. Unbelievable. Texas GOP Congressman Dan Crenshaw is here to react. What's your reaction to him suddenly trying to sound like he's tough on the border?
Well, it definitely did not sound like he's tough on the border. He did not sound like the leader we need in this kind of crisis. He spent about 4 lines on the border. 4 lines. All right. And he used one of those lines to just talk about amnesty. So we're really not seeing leadership here. He said, you just played it, and he said they've arrested 8,000 traffickers. We're seeing 8,000 people crossed in Texas per day. Per day. And so he doesn't even mention the cartels. Now, that could be bipartisan. I've long said this could be a bipartisan issue. It's a national security threat. He had the nerve to mention fentanyl later on in the speech, but not tie it to cartels and their Chinese suppliers. So we have 2 cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco cartel, that are responsible for this. All he has to do to bring us together is to target them. It's a common enemy. They're killing over 70,000 Americans a year. He mentioned that. He doesn't mention why it's happening. He says, people need clinics and mental health. No, they need to stop being poisoned with fentanyl, which is coming from 2 organizations. That part was pretty infuriating.
All right, let's talk about some other things that were just totally inaccurate. He keeps saying he created all these jobs, 12 million jobs. But he actually only canceled, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is 2.7 million. And we don't know how many. Most of these people came back after they were told to go home because of the pandemic. He does not want to acknowledge the pandemic.
Right. And who told them to go home? Democrat governors, Democrat mayors. So Democrat mayors and governors created a crisis. It was a Republican president that tried to get us out of that crisis. And by the time he did, President Biden had the great benefit of taking office, right, when the economy was recovering from Democrat lockdown. So it's really disingenuous to claim that he created jobs. And by the way, presidents don't create jobs. The government does not create jobs. Unless they're directly hiring you, they did not create a job. Okay, it is American entrepreneurs, right. It is small businesses getting back on their feet that created those jobs. If Biden did anything, it was hinder our ability to grow and to prosper because he kept the pandemic going, all right, kept people at home, kept paying them to stay home. He forgot to mention the labor participation rate. All right, we have over 2 million less people working now than we did pre-pandemic. So we would have a stronger economy without Joe Biden. That is the reality. That is the fact check there.
How about the manufacturing jobs? He added 750,000 manufacturing jobs. Well, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's more like 214,000. A lot of people just going back to work.
They're just going back to work. And you know what? A lot more people would go back to work if Biden wasn't paying them to stay home, if Democrats weren't creating all of this policy and these incentives to just stay home.
Right.
If anything, everybody out there, every employer out there, again, the real people who actually create jobs, not Joe Biden. It's employers. It's entrepreneurs. It's innovators. They're the ones who are trying to bring people back in. They can't find workers.
You're a Texas guy, and the president brought up oil last night. And he vilified oil companies for making profits, not seeing his role in this, restricting production, making it more valuable, jacking up the price, preventing them from getting these new permits, and then ripping them for not building new refineries, and then outlandishly saying, I told you we're going to need oil for 10 more years, as if we don't use it for our jeans, our iPhones, and everything else.
So Joe Biden has no idea how the economy works, and he has no idea how energy markets work. They love to chastise oil companies for making any profit. What are they supposed to be, like a nonprofit organization? Do they want it to be government-owned, like they are in Venezuela? How did that turn out? So they don't understand basic markets. And they also forget to mention that, oil prices in 2020 were like negative $30-something. The oil companies lost tens of billions of dollars at that point. They weren't talking about bailing them out back then. Okay, this is a market, and it's a global market, so you don't get to control the price the way that you would like to either. And you have to incentivize further production. You have to incentivize further exploration. These are multi-billion-dollar ventures that are 10, 20 years in the making. And what they've done by putting a chilling effect on the industry, canceling pipelines left and right, allowing refineries to close. We've closed about 8 in the last 5 years. And by the way, the EPA is now proposing a rule that would potentially close 40 more. which is like 50% of our refinery capacity. This is really, really dangerous, especially for your gas prices. Forgot to mention all that.
Yeah, you can't let that happen. Please don't make that happen. That would be an absolute disaster. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thanks so much.